Okay, so going on with the spinal nerves. So as they come off, they often branch again, and we'll look at this in the next slide. But again, here's this idea of the paravertebral ganglia. So it's a nice picture here, kind of showing you a few different things. These are, again, ventral branches that are going out and innervating muscle here. It turns out that you have these four discrete plexuses, and a plexus is a network of these wires, if you will, so coming together, and then they're going to separate and go out again. So while these spinal nerves come off individually from these given areas right between the vertebra, they often form a union, right? They come back together in a network in the cervical region. So the cervical plexus is C1 through C5. The brachial plexus, so this will be things that innervate head and back of the neck, right, or the back of the head and the neck. Brachial plexus is going to be arm, so this is C6 through T1, and they're giving you some names of these nerves, the individual nerves that then, after it forms a network together, and then it separates out into individual nerves again. Okay, the T2 through T12 form no plexes. So these are all individual and stay as individual spinal nerves coming off here. Then when we get to the lumbar region from L1 to 5, this is the lumbar plexus, and then the sacral nerves form a sacral plexus. Okay, so I said these brachial for arms, so you have an axillary nerve for the underarm, median nerve, radial nerve, ulnar nerve. All right, the phrenic nerve, which is part of the cervical plexus, is actually going to innervate your diaphragm. This is a very, very important nerve, and the reason why you don't break your neck, right? Because if you sever this nerve, you can't breathe. So in the sacral and lumbar region, we have a lot of these nerves that are going to innervate the leg and the thigh. Okay, so you'll notice those names here. All right, so again, reinforcing that, the spinal nerves innervate, or innervate the periphery, all these parts out here. So they carry sensory and motor, right, because they're all mixed. Okay, and I say when we call it a plexus, it's not a straight connection. A reorganization of the axons occur, and we call that again a plexus. Network of nerves organizes the axons that originate from different nerves, right, but innervate the same area, right? So again, brachial for the arm. 4 of these in total, 2 found in the cervical region of the spinal cord, the lumbar and the sacral. And it said, note that T2 and T11 do not join a plexus. All right, now this is what we call a dermatome, and it's a pretty cool idea. It shows you in the picture, you know, where these different spinal nerves are gonna be getting sensory information, and what regions are going to be affecting. So sensory and motor. And again, T1 through T12, it's only going to affect areas here, pretty much, T2 through T12, because T1 actually still affects the arm as part of the brachial plexus. But T2 through T12 is only going to innervate directly and straight out into the thoracic region and parts of the abdominal. All right, but these cervical plexus, right, and the brachial plexus, right, and you can see this starting here with C6, 7, and 8 in the dermatomes, and then T1 here from the front. C2, 3, 4, and 5 are all part of the cervical plexus. All right. In the lumbar region, you'll notice here again from L1 to L5 that we're innervating areas here in the lumbar region, but also down the leg, the outer leg and the inner leg, and the anterior parts of the leg. The sacral region is affecting a lot of the posterior aspects of the body. Okay, so this again is really more for your information. I'm not going to ask specific questions. So, in review, then again, looking at each of these plexuses, the cervical plexus C1 to C5, muscles attached to the hyoid bone, the skin of the neck, and posterior portion of the head. A major nerve is the phrenic nerve, and you can't see it well here, but the phrenic nerve is actually causing the diaphragm, which resides right about here, to contract. All right, the brachial plexus, here we're kind of zooming in on this, right? The major nerves are the axillary, radial, musculocutaneous, the ulnar, and the median. So that name is probably not so obvious, but these other ones you can associate with the arm and therefore as part of the brachial. And this is C4 to T1. Really, it's C5 to T1, but anyway. The axillary is the shoulder, right? And musculocutaneous radial is the back of the arm and the forearm, because that's where you find the radius. The ulnar is the front of the forearm, right? Most of the hand muscles are affected by this ulnar nerve. The median is the anterior forearm, works with the ulnar, and then some of the hand muscles, and the radial side of the hand. Okay? So I generally just ask what plexus does this nerve belong to as a kind of test question to give you a little prelude to what I'm interested in, is that you can match names of these nerves with the plexus they belong to, not what they're actually innervating. Okay, just in general, it's innervating the arm. It's the brachial plexus. All right, lumbar and sacral plexus, as we saw before, this is basically the lower limb and the abdominal or the pelvic area. So here we include an obturator, a femoral, a tibial, and the common fibular. So we recognize these words as associated with the lower limb. The sciatic nerve, which is a problem for a lot of us, is actually the union of the tibial and the common fibular. Right? They actually get bound together into one nerve here. But again, I'm interested that you can associate these nerves with the lumbar and sacral plexuses, right? So, and then this just tells you what they actually, what areas of the body, and that's also again what the dermatomes were trying to, sum up for you in one picture. All right, that pretty much concludes what we need to know for the peripheral and central nervous system. Our last chapter, chapter 14, because we're only going to cover some parts of chapter 15. The last full chapter we cover is going to be looking exclusively at the sensory aspects or sensory division, and then chapter 15 is going to look exclusively at the motor division and the autonomic aspects of the motor. Okay? So I hope